The Veteran by Stephen Crane. Out of the low window could be seen three hickory trees placed irregularly in a meadow that was resplendent in springtime green. Farther away, the old, dismal belfry of the village church loomed over the pines. A horse meditating in the shades of one of the hickories lazily switched his tail. The warm sunshine made an oblong of vivid yellow on the floor of the grocery. Could you see the whites of their eyes? Said the man who was seated on the soapbox. Nothing of the kind, replied the old Henry warmly. Just a lot of flitting figures, and I let go at where they appeared to be the thickest bank. Mr. Fleming, said the grocer, his differential voice expressed somehow the old man's exact social bait. Mr. Fleming, you never was frightened much in them battles, was you? The veteran looked down and grinned. Observing his manner, the entire group tittered. Well, I guess I was, he answered finally. Pretty well scared sometimes. Why, in my first battle, I thought the sky was falling down. I thought the world was coming to an end. You bet I was scared. Everyone laughed. Perhaps it seemed strange and rather wonderful to them that a man should admit the thing, and in the tone of their laughter there was probably more admiration than if old Fleming had declared that he had always been a lion. Moreover, they knew that he had ranked as an orderly sergeant, and so their opinion of his heroism was fixed. None, to be sure, knew how an orderly sergeant ranked, but then it was understood to be somewhere just shy of a major general's stars. So, when old Henry admitted that he had been frightened, there was a laugh. The trouble was, said the old man, I thought they were all shooting at me. Yes, sir. I thought every man in the other army was aiming at me in particular, and only me. And it seemed so darned unreasonable. I wanted to explain to him what an almighty good fellow I was, because I thought then they might quit all trying to hit me. But I couldn't explain, and they kept on being unreasonable. Blim, blam, bang, so I ran. Two little triangles of wrinkles appeared at the corners of his eye. Evidently, he appreciated some comedy in this recital. Down near his feet, however, little Jim, his grandson, was visibly horror stricken. His hands were clasped nervously, and his eyes were wide and with astonishing at this terrible scandal. His most magnificent grandfather telling such a thing. That was Chancerville. Of course, afterward I got kind of used to it. A man does. Lots of men, though, seem to feel all right from the start. I did as soon as I got onto it, as they say now, but at first I was pretty full flustered. Now there was a young Jim Conklin, old C. Conklin's son, that used to keep the tannery. You none of you recollect him. Well, he went into it from the start just as if he was born to it. But with me it was different. I had to get used to it. When little Jim walked with his grandfather, he was in the habit of skipping along on the stone pavements in front of these three stores and the hotel of the town, and betting that he could avoid the cracks. But upon this day he walked soberly, with his hand gripping two of his grandfather's fingers. Sometimes he kicked abstractedly at dandelions that curved over the walk, anyone could see that he was much troubled. "There is Sickles colt over in the meadow, Jimmy," said the old man. "Don't you wish you owned one like him?" Said the boy with a strange lack of interest. He continued his reflections. Then finally he ventured, "Grandpa, now was that true what you was telling those men?" "What?" asked the grandfather. "What was I telling them?" "Oh, about your running." "Why, yes, that was true enough, Jimmy. It was my first fight, and there was an awful lot of noise. Jimmy seemed dazed that this ideal of its own will should so totter. His stout boy's idealism was injured. Presently, the grandfather said, "Sickles Colt is going for a drink. Don't you wish you owned Sickles Colt?" "Jimmy," the boy merely answered, "he aren't as nice as or." He lapsed then into another moody silence.